See, this is why it's hard to explain. Okay, you have to conceptualize that everything you've ever known, including the words, meaning the words that I'm saying, I want you to use them in the form you know them to mean. Okay. If you realize that these sounds I'm going bleh, are just sounds that you incorporate into your ears as words you understand. But if I was talking to a rabbit, it doesn't understand anything that I'm saying. But it can tell if I make a gesture towards it, if it's mean or angry, so it responds. Okay, that's a rabbit. There's a tree. If there's a tree there, and I believe that I take this metal and I saw it cuts the limb off, and I know that because I've had examples of it. Well, okay, I know that if I go with my mouth, it'll blow a fire out. But I also know that oxygen feeds the fire. How does that make sense? Depends on how fast, okay? And we believe that. Oh, it goes all the way back to everything in your mind. Everything you take with you in your mind in this life will stay that way. Rocks will be rocks, trees will be trees, blah, 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 blah. Now, every time another person's born, the world adjusts according to their thoughts, but you can't see it because it's super subtle. Just like when one cell changes in your body, you can't see it because it's so subtle. But you see that on such a tinier scale than the world. But if you take the earth and say the earth is your head, and your brain is your mind, off of your head, the earth is the head, and the sky and the atmosphere is the mind. Okay? You start controlling yourself and start controlling your mind, you realize that you leave your body because you are not you. You are God. And you start realizing that you are God, and you create anything that the vibrational frequency seems to make the strongest. And if everybody in this mass called the earth, which we could say is a head thinking in a unified form that can't get its thoughts controlled, thinks that there's going to be an end, there's going to be an end. If they all just agree that there's rocks, because there's pretty much a lot of evidence, like a lot of people probably still think that there was never no dinosaurs. But a lot of people think that if there were dinosaurs, they were millions of years ago. Time is irrelevant. There is no millions of years ago. There's only right now. People are like, oh, that's a good concept. But if you say that and understand it, that somewhere right now there are dinosaurs in the physical world. But we don't see that, of course not, no. But when you die, your thought patterns will put you in a place where there's a physical world with the chance of dinosaurs. And as you grow in that thought pattern, depending on what information goes in or out, there'll either be dinosaurs that show up or dinosaurs that don't. And as time goes on, your subconscious mind will be like, yeah, I remember hearing about dinosaurs in my past life. They must have been long, long ago. So that's just a thing that stays in your subconscious mind from all your past lives about the idea of dinosaurs. And like, they show up to remind you because people try to prove them through each life, through each lifespan. You'll see somebody trying to prove that there's dinosaurs. So that'll give you proof that there was once dinosaurs, reassuring it in the back of your subconscious mind. Does this make sense? Okay, so in the next life, you start to see the world change because the world is slowly changing person by person. So it can't change with just one person, but it has to start with one person. So that way you can go on to the next, and go on to the next, and go on to the next. And each time your thoughts evolve, just like we do. And if you think people can fly and believe it, then your ability to think that will give more energy towards that idea. And it will actually become more possible. But in the back of your mind, when you say, there were once dinosaurs, but people never flew, that makes dinosaurs more powerful and possible, and people flying less possible and more impossible. Does that make sense? I hope so. I want you to do an experiment with something on a smaller scale. See, start at a smaller scale and realize that everything blows up in an exponential scale. Okay, your thoughts create things. I think today's going to be a great day, and I believe it. And no matter what happens today, my mind is set to see a great day. And it does, no matter what. When I set my mind to see that there's no end of the world, I may have ups and downs, but over time, if I stick to that conviction, over time, I'll start hearing news reports that say, there's no end of the world, okay? But then there's people getting up to a higher belief level, believing there's the end of the world, studying some of the right things, but still letting some of the negative things in their mind. They're like, oh, I'm enlightened, But I seem to like to watch things about dinosaurs and extinction. Well, you're fucking your mind up. Think about what you're putting in your mind as you're watching it. As you're watching or doing or saying or listening to anything, start paying attention to what your mind is processing, because that is what's causing your future to the T, exactly, word for word, thought for thought, vibration for vibration. That's how life truly works. God told me that. You might not want to believe me, but you might want to take me seriously. So you should believe me, even though you don't want to. So stop thinking negative, and negative will stop happening to you. It'll take a while to show up, because you got a lot of people around you to stay positive around, even though they're throwing negative at you. Does that make sense? I know it does. So start doing it, even though it seems hard, because I love you, and you love yourself enough to save yourself.